Do you have a death wish, girl? Like, Jesus, do you want to die? Hey guys, I'm Matt.
I'm Anne.
And this is 8-Bit Family. And today we've just come back from the cinema watching a new film. So this is going to be the second video on our reviews series. It's been a film we've been wanting to watch for a while. The trailers have been up for a couple of months now. And we were genuinely excited about getting out to the cinemas today to watch this film. Because it has actually been the first official date day we have had since your operation, hasn't it?
Yes, it's the first time in nearly a year that I've been to the cinema without crutches. So yay, that's really good.
So the film we went to see today, it was directed by Guillermo del Toro.
Nice.
And I pronounced that pretty well, actually. And the film is Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. It's a horror film that's recently been released in the UK. And in this video, we're just going to give you our general thoughts and opinions on the movie, break it down for you, and as Em pointed out in the last movie review we did of the Child's Play film, there's going to be a spoiler warning in place from now.
Oh yeah, big spoilers.
So yeah, let's just crack into it, see what we thought, what we liked about it, what we didn't like about it.
Okay, well what we normally do is discuss the movie on the way home. So, movie ended, lights came up, we came out, we kind of looked at each other and kind of went,
Yeah. It should have been called Scary Stories, it should have just been stories to tell. Stories that are told. Yeah, stories that have been told. I mean, let's start from the beginning of the movie. It's a very good place to start, from the song. But yeah, you start at the beginning of the movie, it jumps straight in there.
Does it?
Well, it starts you off in the 60s, so it gives you, it's set in the 60s,
Is
this
it 68?
movie.
68?
68.
Yeah.
It's set in the 60s, which makes a change from a lot of the horror movies that have come out recently that are set in the 80s, because they're jumping on all that 80s fad with stuff like It.
I still love that though.
I still love the 80s, but I am glad they set it in a different time period.
Okay, yeah.
So Scary Stories is set in the 60s, and it focuses on a girl whose name is Stella. It's really bad that we've literally come back from watching this movie and we can't remember it. So Stella is I'd say about a 15, 16-year-old girl.
I guessed 15.
Who lives in this like small suburban town
In Pennsylvania.
And she's massively into horror movies.
She likes writing, which is very important as well. She writes a lot of her own stories.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's Halloween.
It's set at Halloween time. So basically, her and a group of friends, who we'll call Tweedledee and Tweedledum for the purpose of this movie, they are the comic relief characters of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
Is that because you don't remember their names?
That is because I don't remember their names as well.
Do you want me to tell you the
Go
names?
on, say the names.
Oggy and Chuck.
Oggy and Chuck.
Or August and Charlie.
Yeah, so they all go out on Halloween and they meet this other boy called Rodriguez. Ramon. I'm so bad at this, we've literally just seen it. And they go to this spooky abandoned house.
Well, they kind of end up there because there's this whole run-in with the local bullies, isn't there? It's an ongoing thing. With the time and what was going on, there's quite a bit of like racial tension with Ramon, who is
Mexican.
Is it actually said explicitly?
It is implied that he is.
It is heavily
Mexican.
implied. It is heavily. There's like a racial slur they use and things like that. So there's a bit of tension. They run into some bullies. Shenanigans happen, involving a bag of flaming poo. And then yeah, they end up at this haunted house. It's a bit of a local legend.
So they kind of stumble across this book in the house, which is written by a woman called Sarah Bellows.
Well done.
Sarah Bellows, and basically there's myths and there's legends and the rumours that this Sarah Bellows hung herself in this house, and she had the ability to tell stories that would come true and
they didn't know that
children.
At this point.
She
had killed children.
She had killed children.
And used their blood to write these stories, and she would tell these stories to other children.
And kids would disappear.
Yeah, because she was locked up. But she would whisper stories through the walls.
Yeah.
And so the thing was, you would go in there and be like, Sarah, tell us a story, and it would be the last story you ever heard.
So they find her book, which has got the stories in it, and in true horror movie fashion, when a legend or a myth says, do not do such a thing, this Stella girl, basically the comic relief character's like, oh, in the myth it says, do not say the words, cerebellum, tell me a story. So, cerebello, do not tell me a story. To which this Stella character instantly goes, Cerebello, tell me a story. It's like, do you have a death wish, girl? Like, Jesus, do you want to die?
Oh, it does my head in. Like, every horror movie, we're like, don't do the thing. Main character be like, I'ma do the thing. It's just awful.
So she says this out loud, and basically the group of friends start disappearing one by one, and this is where
she takes the book with her.
She takes the book with her, and
her being an avid writer.
And the group of friends start dropping off one by one, and this is where we get into like the scary stories, which this entire movie is based around, or let's say the actual 8 minutes of good footage that this film actually contains.
Yeah.
For a film that's like an hour and 40 minutes long or whatever it was.
It felt longer.
You've got about
but not in a good
8
way.
to 10 minutes of good material here. So we'll crack into the monsters.
That's the bit that everyone wants to know.
That's the bit that everyone wants to know, and that's actually the only decent thing about this film. I'm just going to be blunt and say it now.
I'd agree.
So we'll start with the first monster, which was a scarecrow called Harold. So he picks off...
Harold?
Yeah, Harold.
I've already forgotten all
Yeah,
the names.
it's a scarecrow called Harold, and basically he picks off the local bully, and the local bully is the first one to kind of go. It's a really cool scene where they're in like a cornfield, because this Harold and this bully and his family are presumably local farmers.
He got shouted at to go and deliver some eggs,
Yes.
so let's assume they're farmers.
Assume they're farmers. And basically this scarecrow, which is absolutely horrifying, like the way it animates and it moves and it's all janky.
I do like the reveal, because you see it earlier in the movie and it is just a scarecrow at that point.
Which they're like throwing bottles at and beating up with a baseball bat.
Beating it up and stuff. And then when his story becomes true, you know that the scarecrow is going to come to life. But the first few times like the camera pans to it, it doesn't move, and I liked that. I liked that it didn't just go for like an eye blink or something. I like that it was built up a little bit. That was good. So the long story short, the scarecrow kills the bully, but he doesn't just kill him. Well, he stabs him with a pitchfork, spoiler alert, and then the bully turns into, somehow magically, mysteriously, which is never described later in the film, and we'll get into more about this later because it really annoyed me. He too turns into a scarecrow and somehow manages to get onto this. What's a scarecrow pole called? Do you know what they're like tied to like that? A scarecrow pole?
A scarecrow pole. He ends up on that.
If there's an actual name for them.
So he turns into a scarecrow.
Which is a really, really good scene.
Yeah.
That bit
it's so graphic.
Pitchfork through the back, you see the spikes coming out his front. And his spikes are like,
it's like tufts of hay and
straw.
straw.
And he starts coughing and retching and pulling bits of straw out of his mouth. And it's, that bit I found genuinely quite
It's
revolting.
such a graphic scene.
The sounds as well, these guttural, like, he's choking and it's coming out his ears, and that was really, and you watch his hands, that was good. That, like, little, 20-second transformation? That was really, really good.
And that like ties in with the second monster, which is the toeless lady, which is another one of these stories where Oggy, who's one of the comic relief characters, this is how he bites the dust.
One.
And we're going to talk about it later, but the one thing that they did wrong with this movie was the monster reveals. And basically, you'll see what I mean if you watch the movie. There is a image of the toeless lady, and it is just a foot without a toe, just plodding along this corridor. But that's not the first thing they show you to like get you like scared. They literally just pan in on just this woman like bumbling around like
just
this.
Like a big zombie.
Just like a big zombie woman.
Thing.
And it takes away the immersion instantly. If they'd opened up with that shot of just like a wet toeless foot.
Even like a footprint missing a toe.
Yeah.
That would have been cool.
But
I mean, you know what's going to happen, because at this point the kid's like, Oggy, it's your story, quick, don't do things. So we know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And we know that he's about to eat this toe, which again,
disgusting.
That was disgusting.
Absolutely disgusting.
I quite happily watch a lot of gore and stuff and it doesn't bother me, but like hearing him like crunch and then like and realise it was a toe, that bit, bleh, that was good.
But again, a lot of the monsters, well, all the monsters in this, CGI effects, and we'll get onto the CGI later because there's always been that thing like practical effects versus CGI. Does CGI ruin horror movies? Whilst the monster designs in this movie are incredible, and you'll remember the monsters in this movie for ages,
yeah.
The CGI is naff.
It's not the worst
Absolutely
I've seen. I don't think it's the worst I've seen. There was one monster in particular that really... They did the dirty to him, but we'll come to him a bit later.
We'll kind of scoot over the next monsters, which were just some spiders in a spot.
Yeah, it's like Beauty Queen who gets a pimple. Turns out it's a spider bite, and she gets like a hair sticking out of it, goes to tweeze it, the hair twitches, and then bleh, spiders. Yeah. Which didn't do it for me, but I'm not that bothered by spiders. Yeah, it didn't really do it.
Like, again, CGI spiders as well, they just look really fake, and it was just like, oh, come on, guys.
I mean, if you don't like spiders, that seemed really
it'd be terrifying, but compared to the other monsters in this movie, they're not memorable at all, and they're not really monsters, are they?
That's what I was going to say. I feel like this toeless zombie woman who stalks people and this reanimated scarecrow, he's got like a massive hole in his stomach and everything, versus some spiders.
Yeah.
There's not the same, it's not the same
level.
Yeah,
but I think the next monster does that justice, because obviously you've got the pale lady next, who's kind of like the poster boy or the poster child.
It's her and the scarecrow that everyone remembers.
Like the poster child for this movie, and that is a quite disturbing scene, to be honest. It is very bleak. That's very bleak.
One that's stuck with me out of all the monster designs.
So this is Chuck. This is Chuck / Charlie's death / disappearance in the movie, and he's running through a hospital / mental asylum. And basically it's gone into lockdown.
He has to avoid the red room. He knows that from his dreams. And the other people go to a red room, but it's an acronym rather than an actual room that's red. So Charlie's trying to avoid a red room, and then on lockdown, all the alarms go off and the corridor he's in turns bright red.
Yeah.
And that was a nice little moment. I was like, oh, it's bad. So I liked that.
But like the monster design of this pale lady, it just kind of lumbers towards him and just kind of like envelops and absorbs him, assimilates him.
Yeah.
And it's, again, not explained what actually happens to him. And this is my main gripe with the movie, because in your first instance, the guy turns into the scarecrow. In Augie's instance, he just disappears under the bed.
Dragged under the bed.
In this instance, he kind of gets absorbed into this woman, and then it takes us on to the next monster, which is kind of the final monster of the movie, which is the Jangly Man. And up until this point, it's kind of made aware that, oh, only your monster can kill you. And
I thought that was the idea.
That seems to be the premise they were going with. But this Jangly Man kills a police officer by snapping his neck. Which, again, inconsistent, because in the other instances they've either disappeared or turned into the creature themselves.
And like the girl who they did rescue Spider-Bite Face.
Yeah.
But she would have been eaten alive. You see that she's got thousands of bites all over her. So just to just felt a bit...
Yeah. But the fourth monster, the Jangly Man, again, absolutely horrifying. There's just kind of deformed, twisted old man.
Pieces of the body, and they all kind of...
cracked together.
But you know those little magnets snap together things? It was like that, but gross.
Yeah. And I think the design of the creature was so good, but the CGI just let it down. Absolutely let it down.
He was the one that had the worst of it, because the other monsters, I feel you could get away with it being a bit surreal, but with this creature, there were really intense chase scenes and things.
Yeah.
And it just, I liked it, but I didn't love it.
Yeah, and just looking at the trailer, it's frustrating me, because I was so excited to see this movie.
Too. How excited were we?
We've been talking about this movie. We've been talking about this movie, but going to see this movie for months now. And come on, 2019! I just want a great horror movie. I want a scary horror movie. If you're going to call your movie Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, at least be scary. Come on, literally. Oh my god, I was so bored throughout the entirety of this movie. The best bit about it was the creature design. The characters themselves, the two best
characters got eaten or whatever.
Augie and Chuck were the two best characters in that movie, because they're so believable. It's just two friends having banter with each other.
Just dorky, you know, in that awkward stage where you're too old to be a kid, you're not quite a man, and it's just that weird part in your life. They were just... no, gone. Get rid of them.
But it's even the bully was a bully for the first 10 minutes of the movie. No backstory, no in-depth. If you think about the guy from It, the bully from It just goes straight into he's the most evil person in that movie. the bully in Scary Stories Telling in the Dark just feels like some random guy that's got a jock jacket on, like. And you just you want to hate those kind of characters, but you're just like, oh, he's just some guy that wears a green jacket.
I didn't feel like I wanted to hate him like I did the bully in It. I just felt like he needed a bit of a smack.
Yeah.
And then straighten up.
But I think the most infuriating character
I'm against violence, though.
The most infuriating character in this movie is Stella, because from the start of the movie, it makes her out to be kind of like a weak and vulnerable character, and it gives you a lot of.
She's got her tragic backstory.
It drops you straight in there with a tragic backstory when this bully like says something about her mum that disappeared a number of years ago, and you're instantly like, right, she's like kind of like not damsel in distress, but she's kind of like the weak, vulnerable female character that you see in some of these horror movies.
Yeah.
And she goes instantly from that to some weird zany kid just in like a 30-second period.
You expect when that's revealed, you kind of think, okay, well, she's going to kind of rise out the ashes, become the beautiful phoenix warrior that she deserves to be, but it doesn't happen organically. It's just like
clicking your fingers. He's the bully's like, oh, your mum's dead or whatever, your mum's disappeared, and she's like, oh, I'm so sad, I've got no mum. Do you want to go see a horror house? And it's like there's just no transition and there's no character development. Oh, I'm so sad. I am so sad.
There were lots of little bits as well that they put in that I just felt like were going somewhere and didn't really lead anywhere. At one point they were like, oh, was it voodoo? Did voodoo happen? Was there black magic and voodoo?
Oh, don't get me started.
And I was like, ooh, okay, where's this going? And it went nowhere.
I think like all in all, if we're gonna like sum it up and put our final words on it, I think all the best bits were revealed in that trailer. All the creatures were already revealed in the trailer, so you already knew what was coming. The premise of the story was revealed in the trailer, so you already knew what was coming. If you'd read the books already, because obviously they're based on books, you knew what was coming. And just even the jump scares weren't scary. Like obviously, if a jump scare,
he did jump once.
Right, once, but it wasn't even one of the major jump scares.
No, it wasn't.
If you're gonna make a movie that is based on jump scares, make your jump scares scary, right? Come on, it's a horror movie. This movie was literally the Goosebumps movie from a couple of years ago, but on crack. Like literally. That is literally what it was. It was a dark take on Goosebumps.
Which, to be fair, is what it should have been, but it should have been done better.
They executed it poorly.
Good idea, done... Could have done better.
Yeah.
A+ for idea, C- for execution.
And I think, like, if we were to give our, like, final opinions on it, I'd give this movie... I'd give it a 3 out of 10. It's been going down. When I got out of the cinemas, I was like, it's a solid 5 out of 10. It's okay. We were talking about it on the bus. I was like, it's a 4 out of 10 on the bus. I've just got home and I'm like, I'm done with this movie. It's a 3 out of 10 for me. Like I said, the monsters, visually and conceptually, scary, I'd say. If that was just you telling a child about the Pale Woman or the Jangly Man, that would be terrifying. But the way they brought it to life with the CGI, so poor. And like, to say it was scary stories to tell in the dark, the stories were the best bit. And you've got about 10 minutes of footage that is good.
Scary stories to tell in the dark. They did champion the stories. The actual stories were the best bit of it.
But you must admit that the stories bit only amounted to, let's say, max 15 minutes of footage.
Yeah.
And the rest of it's complete filler. And that's what I've got to say on it. Like, I don't know what your opinions were, like rating and final opinions.
I'm normally harsher than you.
Yeah.
I want to rewatch it. I see you shaking your head. I want to rewatch it. I think there might be like little Easter eggs and little extra bits in it that I want to go back and have a look for. I didn't hate it. I didn't love it. I'm gonna give it a proper average 5.
5. Okay. So a 3 out of...
Good bits.
Yeah.
But you have, it's a bit like going to a car boot sale. There may be some really good bits in there, but you've got to sift through a lot of rubbish first.
Yeah.
So in conclusion,
a 3 out of 10 will not watch again. A 5 out of 10
may give a go again.
But fingers crossed, there's got to be some good horror films coming up in 2019.
Well, there is one
We've
coming
got
up.
It Part 2. Please do not let us down.
Don't do the dirty.
I'm sick of seeing terrible horror movies in the cinema this year. It Part 2 has got to be good. We still got to do our review of Midsommar,
yes,
which we're going to be doing very soon. I really want to go watch Crawl, which is at the cinema at the minute, which is the alligator movie. So there's going to be plenty more reviews on the channel coming up soon.
Yes.
But let us know what you thought of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark.
It's not called that, remember, it's called Stories to Tell.
Let us know what you thought as that stories were told. The stories. Just call it Story.
Story.
Just let us know what you thought of Story. Put it in the comments down below.
Genuinely,
and try and change our minds.
Fun little anecdote. Before I forget, genuinely, do you know what the most terrifying thing about this entire cinema experience was?
What?
When that random woman showed up 2 rows behind us and we have no idea how she got in.
Spooky.
That was the scariest bit. So, you know,
Yeah.
ooh, we were visited by a ghost.
Yeah.
Maybe it was Sarah.
Maybe it was.
Okay, I'm getting carried away.
But yeah, thank you very much for watching this video. Like I said, put your comments below and let us know what you thought of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. If you like this video, hit subscribe and keep up to date with everything 8-Bit family related. Don't forget to hit that ding-a-ling-a-ling-dong bell. And yeah, we'll see you on the next video. Bye!